So I went to the cinema the other day with a friend of mine to go and see Gladiator 2. Now I loved the first Gladiator, it's a great film, it gets so much right as well. But I didn't really feel that way with Gladiator 2. I know I'm probably just that one guy that is nitpicking here, but here's the thing. So for me personally, I don't mind if I'm watching a historical epic and there are historical inaccuracies, but with Gladiator 2, I felt I just couldn't ignore it. I know I'm an absolute nerd for saying this, but because when you're aware of historical inaccuracies, it kind of takes me out of the film a little bit. I know that's kind of just a me problem because I'm a bit of a nerd about it. I'm not even saying I know that much about the Roman Empire or Republic or anything, but there's just some things that you see in the film and it's like, could they not have just used another animal? Could they not have just, instead of a rhino, they could have used a horse or something else? Instead of mutated monkeys, they could have just used lions, you know what I mean? I thought it was a wee bit annoying. For me, it was just small inaccuracies that just added up that were just pointless. I don't think it really makes the film much worse, but it kind of annoyed me personally, just because it would have been so easy just to have, have it historically accurate instead of changing it. For example, what I mean by this as well is there's sharks in the water. Like, there's no way that they would have been able to capture a shark and have it float through an aqueduct or something into the water. So just things like that just kind of annoy me a wee bit. Like, instead of having sharks in the water, you could have had spikes maybe at the bottom that would impale people if they fell in, instead of having a shark. I was like, what is going on? But it was yeah. Anyway. And then there was the guy, so you had the mutated monkeys, the guy standing on the rhino. Again, I know it's not that big of a deal, but I just wonder why these changes or inaccuracies were made in the first place, when the alternative, being historically accurate, doesn't have to be boring. Why not a lion instead of mutated monkeys? Why not a chariot? Why not chariot horses instead of a rhino? Why not spikes in the water or maybe something else? As I say, the film is still enjoyable even with its inaccuracies. I do understand it's probably just something that bothers me personally. Away from that, the film itself had some cool moments, like when the general in the Colosseum fights 4 Praetorian guards. I thought that was really cool. I liked the sea battle in the Colosseum. I saw it in the trailers and obviously that's what hooked me as well, because I was like, wow, they actually did have water in the Colosseum, this is a really cool thing. So that kind of hooked me and kind of made me want to see the film even more. But I wish it was longer and maybe a bit more tense in terms of its place in the story, maybe not the fight itself. The moments in combat in the film are quite well choreographed. I never felt they did anything too implausible, but weirdly enough, even though I liked the combat scenes in the film, they just felt a bit empty. I know it's quite strange to describe, but I was happy with what I was seeing, but didn't really feel anything. When I watched the first Gladiator, the movie really made me root for the characters, but I didn't really feel that as much with the second movie. So let's talk about the characters. The main character, Lucius, very much looks the part, but I never felt his leadership or charismatic qualities came off. And I know it's not easy being compared to Russell Crowe, who did it so well in the past, but this is Gladiator 2. So when you have that name, you kind of have to live up to it, at least be just as good, or if not better, is what I would say. And I think that's fair enough, especially if it's the second film. It's meant to be the second part, the better part, or just as good, if not a continuation. I honestly couldn't tell if the film was a sequel or a reboot. Denzel Washington was really good in this film as well. I feel like he stole a lot of the scenes that he was in because he was just really, really good performance. I mean, at first I thought maybe he was a good guy, but then he ended up being a bad guy, and it never really felt like, oh, he's just randomly changing. It always felt like that could have been a part of his motivation. So I really liked that. I really liked his character. I thought it was really good. He was a really good actor as well. The return of Maximus's wife was really cool as well. I'm happy that she was back for the role. You can tell that she's a bit older since the film came out, but that's just life, I guess. I liked the general's character a lot as well, Pedro Pascal. I think he's like Maximus if he sided with the Empire, which is a cool mirror. I felt like he was quite manly and I liked that as well. I felt that he embodied the Roman general really, really well. And yeah, it was cool because he had a bit of moral complexity to him. Because at first he kind of was the bad guy, but then his reasoning made sense because obviously he just wanted to retire, so it's kind of like fair enough. So yeah, I did quite enjoy his character as well. I think most of the actors in the film were between good or great. I didn't find myself cringing at them, apart from Lucius, to be honest. I didn't like the twins very much, but I think they acted well, so I can't really blame them. So honestly, with Gladiator 2, I feel like they would have been better off building off the first story instead of trying to do the same thing as before, but slightly different. I know that's not an easy thing to do, but they definitely could have switched things up a lot more and taken the film in more of a different direction. Obviously they called it Gladiator 2, so it's kind of just exactly the same as Gladiator 1 but with some differences. But the thing is, why wouldn't you just make another film about gladiators instead of calling it Gladiator 2 and trying to force the first one into the second one? Like, I think people would still be interested in his. I think people still are interested in historical epics. So I don't think it would have been much of a problem if it wasn't a sequel. Like, maybe they could have just had it be its standalone film instead of being compared to the past. It's like people still love the Roman Empire and people still find this stuff interesting. So they could have just made the film a standalone film, maybe call it Gladiators of the Arena or something like that. I don't know. I just feel like it didn't need to be a sequel, that's for sure. And again, I know it's not an easy thing to do, but they definitely could have switched things up a lot more. For example, it would have been cool to see Maximus's dream of Rome instead of his sacrifice being for nothing. I thought that was a bit cheap. Overall, the film is slop, but it's always nice to see some good action, but definitely not as good as the first one. It is very safe overall, but it's quite forgettable. I did enjoy it. I probably wouldn't see it again. I would just go watch the first one. But yeah, if I had to give it out of 10, I would give the film probably a 6.5 out of 10. I know it's easy to compare films of the past and see them in a more negative way, but when it's just been done so much better before, it's hard not to see the flaws, and you would think films would be better or just as good, but it doesn't really feel that way anymore. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. I thought I'd switch things up with a movie review. I'm planning on doing a video on Jedi Survivor, but I really want to put a lot of effort into it, so I'm going to take a little bit longer with it. I'm going to try make it maybe 10-14 minutes. I can't really promise anything, but I want it to be really, really good, so I want to put extra time into it. So if you're waiting a wee while, I'm sorry about that. And I might even do a review on the original Stalker. Since everyone's playing the second one, I think it'd be cool to play the first one and just sort of compare them. But anyways, if you guys have any suggestions as well, what you would like me to upload, please feel free to say what you think in the comments. Again, thanks a lot on the support. I'm nearly on 100 subscribers. I'm laughing because it's actually really cool. It's picked up really quickly because before I only had like around 70, and then when I started uploading sort of gaming related videos, it picked up very quickly. So I really appreciate that. It gives me a lot of motivation to keep going with this. So again, I love it. Thank you guys so much for that. Anyways, I'll catch you in the next one.